inside you, they're inside you, restoring hope to the young and old, impacting lives for the next generation. The more we search, the more we find. What does it mean to share your story from the inside? What does it mean to change the usual from the inside, 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 inside you, inside, inside, inside.
Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of the Inside View. And I'm so happy because the World Cup has started, and oh boy, it's so amazing, and we're all rooting for our various countries. I'm rooting for Ghana. I don't know where you're watching me from, but I'm for Ghana, and let's see how it goes. I know we are going to take the cup home. So, just like we do on the Inside View, we educate, we empower, so we try to, answer a lot of unanswered questions, and also to bring a lot of clarification to many of the issues that we shy away from. So today, I have with me a super talented man who will help me today educate and also empower our young boys. And before we go on, I'll just urge you to share this link, and especially bring your young boys, your teenage boys, your young men, around for you to listen to my guest's story, for you to be empowered. My guest for tonight is a well-rounded vintage entrepreneur and versatile credit management professional with strong commercial, residential, and consumer finance background gained during employment of at GE Money Bank. He's done so much. I don't want to, actually read too much about, his achievements. But all that I want to say is he's a barrister. If you want to know so much about my guest, please go to LinkedIn and you'll be blown away by his achievements. But all that I can say is, he's so super talented. So bring our young boys to the table and let's all, listen to his story. And my guest is no other than Barrister George Lawrence Badejo-Adegbenga. Badejo-Adegbenga. Sorry. Barrister George, welcome to the Inside View.
Good evening, Nana. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm so excited to be here.
Do you know what? I wanted to read your achievements and I'm thinking, I can't finish. I can't finish, and it will be too boring for me to be reading everything that you've achieved here. So I will just leave you to talk about who you are. In spite of your accolades, your awards, your...
Nina, can you hear me? I'm actually having...
Yes, I can hear you
at the moment. Let me...
Oh, really?
Have a look at what's going on.
Because I can hear you clearly. I can hear you.
Okay, are you still there? Okay, perfect. Apologies.
Okay.
I just...
No, it's okay. It's okay. My guest is George Badejo-Adegbenga, and I do sincerely apologize, earlier on for actually spelling your name wrong.
Oh, it's fine.
It's not done. Yeah. So I do apologize for that. So if you can just tell us who George Badejo-Adegbenga is, please.
Okay, thank you, Nina. And again, thank you for having me on the show.
Oh,
And
you're
just so
welcome.
you know, I'm also rooting for Ghana
Oh.
for during this World Cup. Nigeria did not qualify, so I'm hopeful that our next door neighbor Ghana would take the cup home. So excited in that regard as well. I guess who is George? I would like to be regarded as a boxer, right?
Oh.
uh, which is a metaphorical way to describe who I am. And I see life as us being in a boxing ring, right? Punches have been thrown from all angles, right? Some you may see come and dodge. Some you predict correctly and take the necessary avoidance move, while sometimes you get it. And hopefully, when we get it, we learn from our experience in order to prevent a similar blow in the future. But if we have to put aside a metaphorical description, I am but a father, a husband, uh, a brother, a friend to many, I hope, and the CEO of MIM Finance Company Limited, where we strive to make affordable finance accessible to many Africans in sub-Saharan Africa, starting with Nigeria, my motherland. I also see when we talk about CEOs, I regard myself as a chief everything officer because being a
I
CEO
like it.
for a startup, you're involved in everything. It's
Mhm.
tough. I'm also the chief legal counselor and co-founder of Ethical Resolve Limited, which is a UK-based firm focused on the rehabilitation of UK consumers in financial hardship. So that is George.
Wow. Do you know, before we go into today's discussion, how does it feel to be the king in your house? Because I know you've got four
Four
girls,
daughters, yeah.
plus your wife, so five girls in the house. So I mean, how does it feel to be the
Well,
king?
yeah, outnumbered for sure. I had to get a male dog so I can have some kind of male company in the house. But I am blessed. My girls are so beautiful, very caring. So I think for
Wow.
those of us with girls, we're just lucky. We get pampered, we get spoiled, and we are lucky.
Wow. Anyway, like we also four girls and one boy. So
Cool.
I mean it's okay. And today we are going to talk about the essence of empowering our young boys. And um the discussion, has always been empowering our young girls. I mean, which is super because for many years, women we have been, I would say, marginalized. So I mean, it's in the right direction to empower, our women or our young girls. But of late, of recent occurrences have actually, made a lot of mothers actually pause to rethink about this whole idea. It's good, don't get me wrong, but I'm thinking we need to start empowering our young boys as well. So, we're going to talk about an insight into, multidimensional relevance. And I think you fit into that discussion. And before we do that, I just want to know about how was it like growing up in Nigeria? If you can actually take us back before we go into today's discussion, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Nana. So I spent my childhood in Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess like many youths growing up in a developing and, in Nigeria's case, economically challenged country. We had loads of fun, of course, amongst our peers, but there were a lot of things going on as kids that we don't understand and we couldn't comprehend. Many things didn't really make sense.
Mm-hmm.
For example, our parents are forcing us to study hard, while at the same time we could see our uncles and our aunties that have done the same struggle,
Mm-hmm.
struggling to get a job, right? We witness peoples that are celebrated for being very clever in school, but they're ending up on the streets, working to make ends meet. So that was really our reality growing up in Nigeria as a child, and it's just like so confusing because you're find it difficult to understand why you have to do certain things when the reality is staring right in the face and it doesn't match with what they're telling us to do. That was life growing up in Nigeria.
Wow. So what kind of family, did you actually grow up in that has shaped the kind of person you are today?
Yeah, I think, well, for me, I was pretty lucky. And by the way, I lost my mum, uh, when I was 3 years old, breast cancer. So I at that stage, there was no mum. So we had aunts and family members supporting us. In terms of our family unit, at the time, I had my brother and my sister. It was just the three of us until my dad later remarried. So now I have three sisters and a brother. And my dad at the time was also project accountant. So, and he was doing the building of the thermal stations in Nigeria. And that resulted in a lot of traveling. So childhood for me was amazing because we get to go to different places and I meet new friends. But I think if I want to reflect on my childhood, I think the most exciting and impactful part was when I was at boarding school, right? And I think this was when I developed the ability to be independent and be self-sufficient. And don't get me wrong, at the time, I didn't understand why my dad insisted on me and my sister and my brother going to boarding school. We thought that he didn't love us, right?
Yeah.
I could recall during the early years, I cried myself to sleep because it just felt like I was alone. But guess what? Being enrolled in the boarding school at the time was one of the greatest gifts, as I know now, I got from my dad, right?
Wow. Wow. So what were your influences back then?
So pretty much at the time, I think it was a Catholic school, right? And guess what? I wanted to be a priest at the time as well,
Oh.
right? So
So from
yeah.
being
That
okay.
was that's what I wanted to become. I even stayed. My dorm was the back of the school chapel, right? So I prepare and assist the priest with mass and all this kind of stuff. So I thought that was what I was going to become, and that those are the people that inspired me: the priest and the doctrine and the way the discipline, and that was what inspired me until when I decided to think differently.
Wow. Okay, so we are going to talk about, the resilient mind. I'm George. What is resilience, and what does resilience mind actually mean to you?
Well, resilience for me, I think I would say it's the ability to study one's environment, right, and adapt to it and be able to bounce back when things don't go as planned, right? So having a resilient mindset for me is just about being able to learn from my mistakes.
Wow. So, what do you think of um, our young boys being empowered to be resilient in their mind? What is your take on that?
Well, send them to boarding school. I'm joking. Uh, if we agree with that definition, I guess, then certainly we can teach our children to be resilient by, I think, giving them the latitude to explore the environment and perhaps experience creativity. And I think we need to be strong enough to let them make their own mistakes, right? Now,
Ooh.
maybe by accident, because I was in boarding school, right?
Mhm.
I made my own mistakes because I didn't have my parents there to guide me and protect me, right? So that kind of worked in my favor. And I think for our folks, our children, the young folks out there, and also for parents, because the parents play a huge part in this, is giving them that opportunity. Most of all, the kids these days are locked up in their room playing games on their computers, on their phone. They don't experience the reality. They don't get to stay outside and do things and be creative. And I think we need to start to think about how we could expose them to the reality at that young age, so that they can kind of accept that life is not perfect, and when things go wrong, right, it's okay, right, and they need to have that positive mindset to be able to overcome it.
Wow. Do you know what? I mean, it's rather unfortunate that you lost your mom at that, tender age. The year of 3. That's so so traumatic. I mean, for a toddler, that time, growing up. Do you think, parents of today, we overindulge our children too much?
I believe
Just
so.
like you said, we don't, allow them to explore or maybe to make their own mistakes. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think we do. We do it to a fault. I do as well, and I try to force myself not to. But and I think it's really, really difficult, because if you look at the way things do play out, you as a parent, you think about your own upbringing, right? Maybe you had a very, very strict and uh, disciplinarian parents, and you feel that you wouldn't do the same, without thinking about the effect it's actually had on you to become who you are. And then we naturally want to kind of overindulge our children and overspoil them. And which unfortunately is to their detriment. And it's so hard to be able to step back and say, you know what, I'm going to put my foot down like our parents did, and make sure that that they experience life, and know that things are not easy. You have to work hard, and you have to rely on relationships, right?
Yeah.
Everyone plays a part in shaping you, and you have to value that, right? But it's a very, very difficult thing. I'm working on it personally with my kids, because it's just so easy to just say, okay, it's okay, I'll fix it. That is the easy thing to do, right? And if you really want to do a good job, it's about stepping back and making the tough decisions, right?
Okay. So, I just want to know, when you moved from Nigeria to England, how was the transition for you? Because most of the times we have some of our children actually moving from Africa, yeah, here, and also we have also sending our children also back home. So for you, actually coming from Nigeria to the UK, how was the transition for you?
Yeah, I was lucky because my parents live in my dad was in the UK. My sister was born in the UK. Had loads of family members in the UK. That has always been the case, even though I grew up in Nigeria. So it was a soft landing for me, in comparison to some of my friends that did the same journey. But having said that, it depends on the age when you come. So I came after my first degree in Nigeria. So it was pretty much like starting from the beginning, right? So you've got nothing, and you have to build a new life. You have to build new friends, and it was tough, right? And also, you have to learn the culture, a new culture, right? A new way of living, a new environment, right? And that was tough in that regard, but I was lucky because I had family ties around at the time.
So for you, do you think resilience can be taught?
Oh yeah, I believe so. I believe resilience can be taught.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can be taught even in schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally developed the ability to deal with life challenges with a resilient mindset, which I had to develop thanks to my dad and my granddad and teachers and coaches and mentors that I've been fortunate to meet along the way. So I strongly do believe it can be taught.
Okay, so what of um, children or like parents who don't have access to mentors or all these great people that you actually had the opportunity to have on your way, what kind of advice to give do you want to give to parents to help them educate or empower their young boys to be resilient in their minds?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one because first the parents need to kind of appreciate the importance of the kids having a resilient mind, right? So I think the society has got a part to play. I believe that schools have got a part to play because they have access to that information, and some parents don't. I recall back in the day when I was a baby barrister doing criminal defense, and I represent young folks at the police station. And because they're young, they're appropriate adults, mostly the parents, need to come to the station to support them. And I witnessed the advice that the parents are giving them, and it can only just make you sad because you could see clearly the cause of the problem, right? The parents do not even know what is right and wrong, right? And of course you're breathing the same to the kids, and then it carries on, and then we have a societal problem. But I think that the schools, as opposed to the parents, should start maybe introducing some kind of a program into the school curriculum that would bring about the ability for kids to have and develop a resilient mindset.
Wow. So, what are some of the characteristics or signs of a resilient mind?
I would say, well, having a positive attitude and being
Mhm.
optimistic is key, right? That is what gets you going, believing that you can overcome whatever challenges and being hopeful, right? Um, to all the sense of purpose as well, I think it is very, very important, hope for the future. So whenever you're challenged, right, that purposeful mind keeps you going, and that belief that no matter what this is, it's just a phase, and you're going to overcome it, and that stirs that creativeness in you to find a way to navigate out of whatever adversity you're faced with. And I think also a sense of control is very, very important.
Mhm.
If to be resilient, you have to have that sense of control, to believe that it's in your hands, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to blame anyone. You don't blame the government. You don't blame the society. You believe that you have that control. Your future is in your hands. And of course, problem solving skills is also very good characteristics to have.
Wow. In your case, you came in after your first degree. So I am thinking the cultural shock and many challenges could have affected you so much. So for you, how come racism and also other challenges did not stop you from achieving what you have achieved now? Because that seems to be the excuse or the excuses of our young boys now. Because they say, you know what, I'll do everything, but they will not give me the opportunity. So what is the point? So in
Mm.
your case, how were you able to, or even now, how have you been able to overcome all these challenges?
Yeah, very, very good question, Nana. I guess I simply refused to subscribe to the idea that someone or flawed system can stop me from achieving my goals. Don't get me wrong, I've experienced racist behaviors, but I guess I've been fortunate to draw the required energy that makes me see beyond such acts.
Mhm.
And I think many people that are racist, if you like, and some people are not. They just have this intrinsic bias about a particular race rather than being racist. Most people are like that. But many of those people are what they are because of a flawed mindset, maybe from where they grew up, how they grew up, what their parents have said. Therefore, it's all as a result, in most cases, a result of limited exposure. So for me, I guess instead of letting their weakness, because it is but a weakness of theirs, or their shortcomings,
Mhm.
I don't let it affect my life. I take it upon myself, perhaps, to show them why diversity is in everyone's interest.
Oh, wow. I think this is my first time of meeting somebody that's so strong about not being affected by racism, and also these eminent challenges. George, when a man is not empowered, the society actually suffers. We have a lot of single parents. Children don't have present and responsible fathers. I mean, the society actually, I'll say, like erupts into chaos. So for you, how can our boys be empowered to gain that balance in our society?
Yeah, good question. I do subscribe to the belief that children growing up need both the parents.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at our society today, we see many disturbed children, in many cases boys, lacking the basic life skills. And as a result, the society suffers. I don't know if you know of the story of my brother, John Badejo, who was just working. He works for a pharmaceutical company, and they noticed some kind of disturbance in their car park. So him and his colleague went out to go move those young folks away from the car park. And this, we're talking about kids under 17 years old. And he ended up being stabbed, and his friend being killed in Huddersfield, right? So if you start to do further analysis into why those kids behave that way, you might have found cases of broken home, and where perhaps the parents have not been there or were never there, because this incident occurred in the middle of the night. You would think, what were the parents thinking? Where did they think the kids were? So the point you made about an erupt society, it is true, where the family unit is not empowered. So rather than saying the empowerment of boys, I would say the empowerment of the entire family unit. I think men, in my opinion, and I'm sure you'd agree, have been overrated for many years. But there is a crucial part we men still play
Mm-hmm.
that could be overlooked. Whilst we need to focus and get the balance right with regards to women, we should also kind of accept the fact that the men have got a part to play as well. So we do not overlook or underestimate the part they play in our society. Because if we do, as you said, the society will stop functioning and we would have chaos.
Wow. Do you know what? So, what are the impacts of being resilient at both, the personal level and also the team level? Having worked as a barrister, for years, what do you think of that?
Well, I think that ultimately, if you think about my uh, explanation, and I pretty much gave a metaphorical
Yeah.
description of who I am. So, assuming, yeah, life is like this boxing ring, then, right?
Yeah.
There's always going to be challenges. There's always
Mm-hmm.
going to be punches left, right, and center. And you know we need to be in a position to accept that we are indeed in a boxing ring, right? So
Yeah.
that's the reality. You have to accept that, right? So everything is not always going to go right. Right, because life is not, it's not meant to be right every time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So being able to accept that and develop the necessary skills. And that necessary skill, I think, is the acceptance and the ability to always think about how I can. So when I get that punch, it's just a punch. But if it hurts that bad, I know I don't want that punch again. Therefore, I have to do something about it to prevent it. Right. And I think that that is my way, perhaps, of simplifying life and the need to be resilient and what it takes to be that person.
Do you know what? When you talk about resilience, we get confused with equanimity and resilience. For you, does equanimity improve resilience?
Yes, I think it does. Equanimity uh, is a skill of mind, right? It's a skill of mind and art, and I think it underpins emotional intelligence. So by us opening ourselves to our full lived experience, right, we develop greater self-awareness, including what we are actually feeling and thinking. And I think that is how equanimity improves resilience. So it goes hand in hand, but they're different. You're absolutely right, Nana.
Wow. So you've seen it all, being a criminal lawyer, and I mean, you wear different hats at different times. Um, I just want you to advise a young boy out there who feels lost, maybe an ex-convict, a school dropout, any boy who thinks, you know what, my life has come to an end because I've messed up. And that person watching you today, what do you want to tell that boy?
Well, okay. I think I would be saying to that person out there that it's never too late to establish yourself in the society.
Mhm.
I would advise you to find a mentor that has gone through the same or similar path as you have, but managed to bounce back. And having a mentor could allow you, whoever you are, to believe in yourself, and importantly, to start dreaming again.
You've achieved so much, but yet we don't that you do on a daily basis that has actually led to this amazing success or successes that we actually witnessing from your end. What do you do on a daily basis?
Okay, so right now, so I'm currently in Nigeria, by the way, right? So I work for this company which I co-founded called MIM Finance Company, and at the moment we're trying to build a company that would make affordable finance accessible to many Nigerians. So every day we are in build mode, right? Trying to figure out how we're going to do it. How do we even assess people, who they are, or whether they are in need of our help or not? How do we educate them? Because that is another part of our business. One of our goals is to not only try to start to solve the problem of access, but start to educate people so they understand what it takes and the benefits of a credit economy. So every day it's like stressful craziness. But one thing I do, and I think it's helped me for a very, very long time, and I've been doing this for quite a while. At 5 p.m., I
Mhm.
do have an hour slot where I reflect on my day, right? So that hour, sometimes I move it to 6 or 7, it depends, but I try to find an hour a day. And sometimes I just sit down and do nothing and just think and reflect. And sometimes I just doze off whilst just meditating and thinking about that day. And I've also just been introduced to mindfulness. So that's a
Oh,
new exercise that I want to take on. And I think that could also help deal with the chaos that perhaps I've put myself into in Nigeria at the moment. But I am very optimistic about the future. I think we could do great things. I think we will do great things, actually, from what we've seen so far. But it's really, really tough here in Africa because there are limited resources. Um, there is a new thing going on in Nigeria. I don't know if it's the same in Ghana and other
Oh, yeah.
parts of sub-Saharan Africa where people are leaving, right? A lot of people are leaving, and it's scary, right? It's scary more so for us because we want to attract new talents. And when
Hmm.
you find a good one, you can bet within 6 months they found something else, right? And that something else is not even in Nigeria, right? So for us, we're also trying to battle how do we retain good people? How do we give them an option to stay at home and contribute? And it is a tough battle. So my life, my day to day, it's crazy at the moment.
Wow. Well, so what do you do to keep expanding your mindset? Because you are into mortgages, you are into, it's like you fit into every situation. So how have you been able to expand your mindset to be, that relevant you are?
Well, I try to expose myself to continuous development,
Continuous
either by
development.
expanding my network, right?
Hmm.
I like to make new friends, right? Whether it's LinkedIn, people I've never met before, I connect with people. And for me, it's an opportunity for me to learn, from these new friends and acquaintances.
Hmm.
And also, I do take on loads of educational programs, right? That I believe would further broaden my knowledge and skill set. So, and every time I take on a program, I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be the last one. I'm done. But
I'm thinking
then,
so as well.
but it's never over, because I think deep inside I know that I have to keep on developing. I know for sure that there are other people, thousands of people that would rather be in my shoes. So if I wanna, still be on top of my game, I cannot be the same man I was yesterday.
Wow. Wow. To anyone watching us, Barrister George Lawrence, Badejo-Adegbenga, is actually educating us on how to be resilient, how to have a resilient mindset. And it's been so, good so far. I mean, it's an eye opening, and we are still learning from him. And so, for you, what one word would you, actually use to describe where you are and what you have accomplished? I mean, to someone watching you now,
Okay, one word.
one word, yeah.
Okay, I would say favored.
Oh, that's powerful.
Yeah, I'll say
Favored.
favored. Yeah, because despite all the hard work and determination to
Hmm.
succeed, every part of my journey has been possible because of the favor of God and kind people that have favored me by giving me a chance, and in some cases, a second chance. So I think favored has to be the word.
Wow. Okay. Now that you're talking about favor, I mean, this is, something out of what we know, but I just want to share your journey into you being a barrister. I mean, if because a lot of people will just stop being, a lawyer, a solicitor, and that's it. But then you've actually gone further to be a barrister, and we just want our boys to attain greater heights. We want you to share, that journey with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. So I originally started by studying financial studies, accounting.
Hmm.
That was my dad was an accountant, so I guess you know how our parents are like.
Yeah.
They push you towards doing what they did because, of course, what they did made them successful, so they expect that that is a safe bet. But because my name is Lawrence, right? In Nigeria, and I guess maybe everywhere else, you know, most Lawrence are called the law, right? And growing up, nicknamed the law, and I've always kind of thought I'm going to be a lawyer, right? And when I was in secondary school, I debated for the school, and I started debating for the entire school at my third year, right? most people would be doing that at their final year, the sixth form, right? I was doing it from the third year. I was pretty good at it, right? So in my mind, I started changing the view that I don't want to be a priest anymore. I want to be a lawyer, right? So, but I didn't study law when I went to university in Nigeria, well, Polytechnic in Nigeria. But then when I moved to the UK, I then thought, okay, why don't you give this a shot, right? So I enrolled. At this time, I was working full time, as you do, right? So I decided to enroll to be to study LLB law at the University of Huddersfield. It was a part-time program, and so I worked full time. I'd already had children at this time when I made this decision as well. I had two at the time. So I did the program. It's usually supposed to be, if you did it full time, it's 3 years, right? I did it over 5 years,
Wow.
right? Because I had to go to classes after work and then weekends. So my weekends and nights were studying, spending time in the library, and I had to spread it. My granddad died, so I took time off as well. Came back, so it took that long for me to complete the part-time LLB. And when I finished, I was like, okay, what do we do now? And I was of the view that I'm just going to do something that's easy for me, considering I am a parent. I'm a dad, and I've got the responsibility to take care of my kids. So I cannot do something that full time. Kids that can take time off and get supported by their parents could do. But then I was advised to, because when you complete your law degree, by the way, you have two parts, either become a solicitor or be a barrister, right?
Okay.
And I was encouraged to go shadow some solicitors and go shadow some barristers. So I did so. I shadowed some solicitors, and I thought, oh, I can do this, right? And then I went to go shadow some barristers, and there was this particular barrister. It was in Manchester. And there was a young guy as well. I think he was maybe 3 years post qualification. Very, very smart. We went to court together, and we're talking after trial. And he then asked me, why did I want to study law? Ask about my background. So I told him that I've got two kids. And then he almost jumped out of his chair thinking, what the hell are you doing? Right? This is not for you. Right? And he was explaining to me how difficult it was. And he has got no liability, lives in his parents' house. And with me working full time, having had two kids, it was like, one, I am not demeaning what you want to become, but you cannot do it. Right? And then that got me thinking, because then I then thought, well, he shouldn't have said that, right? So I was then determined to be a barrister because this good guy thought it wasn't possible for me to do it. I got a scholarship, and I did the bar vocational course. I passed with flying colors.
Wow.
And the rest is history, right? And interestingly, when I then completed it, I then decided to take another course to become a solicitor so I could be dual qualified. So I could kind of make whatever choice I wanted that would suit my family life. And that's how I became both a solicitor and a barrister as well.
Wow. Wow. So how do you combine being a husband, a father? I know you're into sports as well. All these activities that you engage in, how do you multitask? And being, the finest in each of the area that you find yourself in. I mean, how do you combine all these things? Being a father, a husband, a full-time barrister. I mean, now you're also the CEO of your own company, trying to make finance available, to Nigerians. I mean, you are all over the place, but You excel in each field that you find yourself in. How do you do it?
Well, I think uh, the one thing that is constant um, throughout, especially from when I came back to the UK, was the support of my wife, because without a support, being able to kind of spend more time with the kids so I can actually pursue this dream, it would have been impossible, right? So I think she did an incredible job in making me be able to pursue my dreams, right? And I think on the point of dreaming, right, if I start to think about, talk about how I get motivated, how do I
Hmm.
keep going, right?
Yeah.
I think it's always been that from being a child, right? I've always been what I can regard to as a dreamer, right? And I know that many kids are the same. We imagine, right? And as a
Hmm.
kid, I always enjoyed going into this deep uh, state of imagination,
Hmm.
about my future self, right? And what I would be doing and how. And that kind of carried on even up to now, right? So when I was a kid, I probably it could be triggered by looking at someone on the TV. And then I would just imagine myself at that particular time, in 10 years' time. Who would I be? What would I be doing? And I'm kind of living that future life already in my mind, right? And that then becomes what motivates me, right? Because now I've sold myself this idea of me in 10 years time. And because obviously when you're asked to imagine yourself in 10 years time, it's always going to be good. It's going to be a picture that you would love, right? And then that becomes what motivates me. And that is the same as now, right? I'm already picturing the next 10 years, George, right? What am I doing? What am I like, right? What is the new thing? What is old, right? And then that then becomes that person that inspires me.
Oh, I don't know, but I'm blown away by being able to dream, seeing yourself in the next 5, 10 years, and that gives you the drive to achieve more. I think at this point, we just want to say a big thank you to your wife for releasing you to be the great man that you are today. So I think I've just asked my technical team to showcase your family, and we just want to celebrate. No, the other one, please. Just the girls, yes. We just want to say a big thank
Yeah.
you to your wife and your amazing girls. Also for always releasing you. Um, thank you so much, madam. Thank you for making George, um, be who he is, and I'll say that he's been a blessing to his generation and also maybe the next generation as well, because a lot of people will come and read of his achievements, and it's going to be. I mean, I'll say. It will serve as an empowerment to any boy that wants to dream and wants to become like George. Yeah. So, do you think, as parents, we should have that kind of conversation? Just helping our young boys to dream, because I think it's something that we don't talk about. What do you think, about that?
I agree.
Because, mm,
I agree. I think we should encourage them to dream. I think naturally, I think they do at that age. Well, I like to think they do at that young age. And I don't think as parents we encourage it, right? And I'm a strong believer that, before you could achieve anything, you have to first be able to dream it, right? And I think loads of things have been invented today. Someone has to have that imagination first, right?
mhm.
Things that are impossible, but you dream it and then you start to put actions in place towards achieving that dream. So I think the power of dreaming has been overemphasized, underemphasized, I think, and I think we need to emphasize on that particular skill, which I think almost all of us have got. But as we grow older, life changes our perceptions and all of a sudden it's a talent that we're naturally given by God, and they become suppressed. And I think we need to do more to allow kids and also adults imagine.
Much.
Yeah.
Wow. In your case, you said you started as an accountant because obviously your father wanted you to become an accountant because of
Yeah.
his orientation. And then you also wanted, like because of your name, that also gave you that, kick to be a lawyer. And we have a lot of African parents that do not, in a way subscribe to what their children, aspire to be. Sometimes, like you have your child actually coming to you say, what, mom, I want to be a hairdresser, or let's say a dressmaker. And then you're thinking, really, of all the, vocations or of all the courses, but sometimes, that might be the dream
Hmm.
of that child. So we try to force our will or the way that we want it to be, but then we were not able to, actually pursue. We force it on our children. What kind of advice would you want to give to us so that we can help our children dream and become, better people, especially our young boys?
Yeah, I honestly do believe that when we parents behave this way, we do so because we've experienced life, and we've gone through different challenges, and we believe that as parents, it's our job to prevent our kids from making the same mistakes we've made.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's kind of the reason why we parents do that. But equally, as you said, if your son or daughter wants to become a hairdresser, right? Um, the first thing I think parents should try to develop is the ability to coach, right?
Okay.
Because at that point when an interest that perhaps is not aligned to yours is being brought forth, it's best to coach them into understanding why they want to do what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And rather than saying, no, you can't because I know you're not going to be successful, that could be the most successful hairdresser, the first
Mm-hmm.
most successful hairdresser in the making, right? So being able to coach children rather than tell them or force them to do what you want them to do has to be a skill set that we parents must have.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say coaching, it's pretty much believing that they've got what it takes to achieve whatever they want in them. So you're not going to tell them what to do, you're going to facilitate them through a process that would let them understand what the goal is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I coach, I use what we call a grow model, right? So you want to start with establishing get them to establish their goal. So why do you want to be a hairdresser, right? And then you take them to through the reality. So what is the reality? What is stopping you? What are the challenges, right? And then the always then the options, right, that exist, right, in order
Mm-hmm.
for them to achieve that goal. But in some
Yeah.
cases, you go through a coaching session and that person realizes that is not actually my goal, right?
Right.
So parents having the ability, the skill set to coach could actually help get the kids to perhaps reconsider being a hairdresser and become an accountant, but then it's them that came up with that solution because they still achieved their goal. They go fulfilled, knowing that they're doing what they want to do. Where we parents get it wrong is we force them to do it. And just like my case, I did it just to satisfy my parent, but then did
Mm-hmm.
something else afterwards.
Wow. Wow. Oof. It's um, to the boy that wants to be like you, what do you have for him?
Wow. Believe in yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Believe in yourself. I was honestly, I was lucky because things changed for me back in GE Money days when one of my team leaders um, sat me down and asked me why I wasn't applying for a senior position, right? Because at the time I was a very, very hard worker. I worked all the hours God sent, right? I was well regarded. I was helping loads of my colleagues. But then there was a position that came up, and I did not see myself as that person because I did not believe in myself, right? And this guy sat me down and said, George, you have to apply for this role, right? And I was like, oh no, it's not me. I'm not a manager. And thankfully I listened to him. I got the job, and my life changed. But the fact that this guy believed in me and told me I was good, right? Uh, Made me think, you know what, I think I'm good. And thankfully, I was able to kind of, navigate through, through an interesting career in the banking sector before I became a lawyer. So I think, you know, believing in yourself or finding someone that speaks positively to you, someone that encourages you, and attach yourself more to that person than to the naysayers and the people that say you can't do it.
Wow. We are, nearing the end of our discussion, but to the young boy out there, that feels that, okay, I'm done. I can't go on anymore.
Okay.
But watching you has got a little bit of hope, thinking that, oh, okay, if Barista came all the way from Nigeria, had no law background, but started as, just like any of us, and then he's been able to achieve what he's been able to achieve now. Since this discussion is about reconditioning the minds of our, young boys to have that kind of resilience, to be able to bounce back from any challenges that, like obviously the racism and all the other whatever. It's real, but we just want our boys to rise above it and be able to achieve more. I just want you to encourage, that boy to say that, in spite of the racism, in spite of everything around, you can still, achieve or become anything that you want to become.
Absolutely. And that boy out there, right? My background, you couldn't have predicted what I'm doing today. And don't get me wrong, I've still got a long way to go. Yeah, I'm far from where I'm supposed to be. But where I am today cannot be predicted. And I think if I can be this person, if I inspire anyone, then anyone can.
Yeah.
Right. So believe in yourself and take that step. And fear not, no matter what it is. Someone has been there before you or worse and survived, and you can only get better.
Wow. Wow. I've got a lot of comments coming in, and they are really amazing. It shows that people have tuned in and also been educated tonight. I've got Jemima Jampo, from London, saying that believing in yourself is paramount. And Jemima also goes on to say that having a good relationship with our kids are very important, as this will help the dialogue between the parents and children. And then, she goes on to say that mentoring is very important. And she goes, and I've got Naya also from Luton, also saying, believe in yourself. And she goes, very inspiring. I've got many, and it's never too late. To any boy there, who thinks, do you know what? I just came back from prison, and my whatever is it's not good. Naya is also saying it's never too late. Yeah, you can still do something. And I've got Nancy Jijita, also saying, actually just applauding us. And I've got Edith also from London, also also applauding us. And I've got Nana Osebonso all the way from America, also watching us. And he also says that empowering the youth is very, very critical. at this point, since they are becoming a conduit for societal more practice. This is because they have the energy and fertility to grow ideas. And some negativity in our world today are taking advantage of that. Therefore, the time for intervention is now, as Dr. King said. The world, and I quote, the world is becoming dangerous, not because of evildoers, but because of those who sit and let it happen. Thank you for your great service to this generation, unquote. So thank you so much, Nana, although from America, thank you. And I've got Miss Black, Satino also saying, well done. And Jemima also saying, I'm inspired and it's never too late. Going back to school. Oh, wow. Yes, yeah. And I think, yeah. Yes, we might have to end it. Yeah, at this point. I mean, it's been an awesome discussion. To the young boy, I'm just doing this to just raise the confidence in our boys, just to let you know that, what, you also matter. You also matter. And we want to let you know that you can achieve anything that you put your mind to. You can become anything. Barista George started as an accountant. She lost his mother at that tender age, 3 years. But he was able to bounce back. I mean, I'm just imagining losing your mom at the age of 3. I mean, he could have turned, anything, but through the help of the parents. And I think at this point, I would like to commend your father. If I think I've got your family picture, if that can also be projected. No, please, the other one. Yes. I'd like to say
That's my dad on the left. Yeah.
Yes. So I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, Daddy, for looking after Lawrence and to become this amazing person that he's turned out to be. Thank you so much, Daddy, because most of the times when wives die that early, it can go the other way, but you stood by your children, and we just want to say thank you for raising this champion. And also this boxer that we have. Yeah. So thank you. And believe in yourself, just like you said. And we should also encourage our boys to dream. When our boys actually come to us with their, dreams, we shouldn't, discourage them, but we should rather encourage them. And also we should engage, we should, have conversations with our children, especially our boys. And the societal, I wouldn't say nonsense that says that, men should not allow to, show their emotions. It's high time we encourage our boys to express themselves, show their emotions, so that it becomes easier. If they're going through any difficulty, it will be easier for them to voice it out to us parents, rather than just shelving it. So we should rather encourage them to speak up. Yes. So, I would like to say thank you, Barista George, for your time, to share so much, of your achievements and also your story. And
thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's been an honor. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you thank you so much. And then also to anyone that has actually stood with us or stayed, until now, I'd like to say a very big thank you for your company. God richly bless you, and have a blessed week ahead. So thank you, and good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.